In this month's story about TTC's first 100 years, we're going to have a 3-generational conversation. Our oldest daughter, Ella, who's at NYU in her first year, and my father, who we're separated by thousands of miles, who's in Europe. In these very difficult times, I think it's a good opportunity to look at where we've been, where we are today, and where we're headed in the future. Hence this opportunity for you to hear from 3 generations. Our last weekly conversation with Nana and Papa on Zoom was wonderful because we spoke about some of this generational history and some of their fondest memories from growing up and building this amazing business that we're involved with today.
We'd gone into the safari business and we'd built our first safari camp, Soabili, and we literally built it from sand in the river. We made the bricks from the sand. We'd go there. Weekends we'd fly up there. And the children literally grew up in the bush. So many of our weekends would be up there wandering around with the animals all over the place. And in those days, we didn't actually understand how kind of dangerous it all was. We'd have the camp manager with his gun, and we'd just be all over the place.
You've had the great opportunity to visit Africa a number of times, and what a privilege that was. Botswana, South Africa.
I would consider myself very fortunate to have spent so much of my formative years in South Africa, and similar to how your experience that Papa spoke about of spending so much time in the bush as a young child, I would completely agree with that and say that the beauty of the wildlife and the setting can really shape an individual and their perspective. And I think from our experiences climbing rocks at Bushman's Kloof, or the amazing summers that we spent in the Okavango Delta in Botswana, I think it's definitely something that is extremely unique to me and something I will carry with me for the rest of my life.
As you know, we're all very passionate about our business. As Papa spoke about on one of our last Zoom calls, how despite how we try, sometimes we just can't stop talking about the business.
I mean, you know how you've always heard me say at meal hours, come on now, let's talk about something else. And what do we get back to?
How do we get back to work?
Yeah.
The hotel business.
And whatever you decide to do with your life, you always know in a family business that at some time, if I decide, I want to do, there's always a place for a family in a family business. That's the wonderful thing. That's what a family business means, a home for everybody.
How have you found that growing up around the dinner table?
I've always cherished and I've always enjoyed our meals. Our family meals can range from an hour to 4. It really just depends on the conversation and what's going on in everyone's lives, and I've always really cherished that.
And then you've got Auntie Tony's example with design.
And then you have Tony and you have Vicky all out there slogging away, doing their thing, but having a lot of fun while they do it.
With challenges always, which they meet, they're so efficient, they work hard, they're not lazy. They just like to do what they can for the best of the business. And they do the most wonderful job, all of them. They really do. I'm so proud of the girls.
One of my most important lessons that I've taken away from the women in our family is definitely from having the exposure from such a young age of the intricacies and, again, beauty of design has definitely shaped me into someone who was very specific about how their college dorm was going to look like. I think it's definitely been the creativity and the attention to detail is something that has definitely been passed along to me as well.
And just wait till you see the new Safari Lodge Kidra in the Okavango Delta, because that is so spectacular. Being in the family business, I hope one of the benefits you've certainly appreciated and enjoyed are the various trips we've taken. I remember with great fondness this Trafalgar family experience we did back in 2012, and looking back at this photo album together was just fantastic.
I always look back at this trip because I think it embodied so many different aspects of trips that every family wants to take. Seeing Mount Rushmore, getting to try different foods that I never would have tried living in Southern California. It's a trip that I've always wanted to take and has always been on my bucket list since I was really young. So to be able to have that experience and a shared experience with a group of family and very close friends is something that I'll never forget.
As we know right now, no one's traveling internationally, but at some point this will pass, be it a vaccine, a cure, or people's ability just to embrace it and move on. What is on your bucket list? Where do you want to go?
Currently, the top of my bucket list would definitely be Greece. It's always been somewhere I've always wanted to go to on a Kentucky trip. And I think based on where my friends are currently in their life, whether it be on the verge of making the decision to take a gap semester or a gap year, something that's really important to a lot of people is trying to figure out how to use this time to impact change for good.
Philanthropy and giving back has always been so important to our family. We always need to and want to do more with the Treadright Foundation. But as you've seen, the work we've done with Me Too We, going to Kenya and India, where we helped build schools and we got to meet and interact with young school children, have been amazing.
When I look back on these trips, I am extremely impacted by the people specifically that I've met. I think through our travels, I've definitely seen just how much impact one organization can make on a community and a person's life.
Talking about philanthropy and charity, thank you as well for the introduction to your friend Sienna, because we certainly want to invest and support more BIPOC communities, especially Black communities. And so it's very exciting to be talking to her about her farming and gardening projects here in Inglewood and Compton. So just wonderful, I think, to see how young people are doing so much to give back and support underprivileged communities. And so important that we all embrace that. Heritage is so important, and Pop has obviously shared some great wisdom and life lessons from some of the family calls, as we can remember here.
And you know, if you say, and people always say, okay, after all this time, what lesson have you learned? And I say, well, you know, if you go back, you can't do anything without people. Everything comes back in our business to people. We can't make a living if we don't get people in our hotels, on our ships, on our travel companies. We can't make a living if the people running, the drivers, the tour managers, the reservation clerk, unless you have the people and they're enjoying what they're doing and they're working with you, nothing works. So the whole thing is, it's about people coming, it's about people going, but it's still about people. It's what makes the world go round.
I think something that my cousins and siblings and I always agree on is the wisdom that Papa's words carry.
Papa's always taught us to look at the bright side of life or accentuate the positives.
Of course it's not pleasant, but you wouldn't know the good if you don't know the bad. And at the end of the day, and at the end of the pandemic and the end of the thing, that's still what it's going to be. The world is still going to go around. Nothing is going to stop here. It's just a delay. And while we're in the delay, make the best of it. Learn what you can while you're holding your breath, because the time will come in the not too distant future when it's full speed ahead again.
For me, I've had numerous silver linings. I've never been home for 6 months in a row. So the opportunity to be with you, your brothers, your mom, our dogs, has been an incredible bonus during these awful times, even though we're all heartbroken over what's happening. How do you see this time? Because you should be away at university and you're obviously home.
So being able to be home when you're home and be able to be here before my younger brother also departs for school has definitely been a huge plus for me. I think it just overall made my gratefulness and love for not only the individuals in my life, but the places that I admire and love the most a lot greater.
It's beautiful, Ellie.
How would you now see, as somebody who's 20 years old, the world in this time, in the middle of the worst kind of situation we've seen ourselves in the world, how would you see the present and the future?
I think from a standpoint of travel and experience, I think definitely within my generation, something that I found that's so interesting is this desire to really, everyone has a bucket list, everyone has places in the world they've wanted to visit, people they wanted to interact with, food they wanted to try. There's more of a surge of why wait? What is to come in the near future once we're able to travel safely is this desire and this push to see the world in a different light.
And when we look back on a lifetime, and a wonderful lifetime, you know, because of course there's ups, there's downs, there's good, there's bad. But overall, looking at all of us sitting here around the world, everybody, our beautiful granddaughter, your beautiful grandmother, and all the rest of us, all together, one for all for one. And so if you look at this family, you look at our 100-year history, you say, well, we got here. Wasn't easy, but what's easy over 100 years? Because as long as we keep the family mantra of going out there, doing the best, delivering the best service, looking after our customers.
And our staff.
Who knows where the next 100 years will be, right?
I think I would say I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I'm excited nonetheless.
Lovely. And Brett, what would you say?
As it says on my coffee cup, we're happy to serve you, which is the fundamental that you always brought me up to believe and emulate in the business. As Mom always says, it's having a passion for people.
And what do you say, Mother?
I say that it's been a wonderful life. It's been a marvelous challenge. I've loved every minute of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The fact that I look at the next generation, I feel happy at this time that there is that future there. So for everybody who watches this, thank you for watching us, spending a little time with us, and understand the family is strong, together, and optimistic for the next 100.